Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the Medical Receptionist Network podcast. My name is Shivhon Adkins. I am your host for today. Our topic this day will be office conflict. And when I say office conflict, we're talking about inter-office with other, coworkers, other staff members, other departments, and things like that, and how we can handle those and, be as professional and as courteous and as respectful with others as possible, and just discuss certain things that may happen and ways that you can really handle that and move on from it. You can reach us and visit us at medicalreceptionistnetwork.com. If you have any questions, concerns, or like to be a guest on the show, please email info@medicalreceptionistnetwork.com. The Medical Receptionist Handbook to Success is also available on Amazon. You can also get there directly from our website or search Medical Receptionist Handbook to Success right in your Amazon search tool. So, office conflict. The first thing you need to figure out when you are having a conflict or a misunderstanding with a coworker is what is the root cause. Because, in a professional setting, you would hope that there aren't going to be too many disagreements and misunderstandings, but things happen a lot of times because someone assumes something about you, or they see something that you've done that they don't agree with, or vice versa. And perhaps, instead of addressing it, it's festered, or, there's gossip going on, or there's things being said. So kind of to avoid that, I always say, you have to discuss it at the level that you're able to discuss it, and then you need to come up with a resolution. Now, sometimes some of the conflict may require, management or other, human resource intervention. But how can we resolve these things before it gets to that point? Always, instead of being on the defense and and trying to protect yourself that way, look at the entire situation, figure out, why did this start? Why did this happen? Where did this stem from? So that you can focus on the actual problem as opposed to looking to attack someone else, because that's just going to add more fuel to the fire, create much more of a tense work environment, which no one wants to do that. You have to show up 5 or 6 days out of the week. You spend a ton of time there. Who wants to be in an environment that is hostile and tense and, where things are not being resolved? You need to be free to work with your patients in a positive mind frame and to be able to do your job successfully without having this type of worry, on your back. So the first thing I always say is to try to discuss the issue directly with that person. It's always a bad idea to tell 5 other people about what's going on, and then maybe the other person who's having the issue with you or vice versa is telling another 5 people what's going on. What does that do? That's like playing telephone. Everyone has their own version of the story. People are forming opinions. People are forming their own, ways that this can be resolved, but they had most likely nothing to do with the original issue or conflict that started, right? So why add more and more people? When you have a problem and you tell a ton of people that aren't able to help you with the resolution, who may or may not have your best interest at heart, who may or may not agree with you, who may or may not have anything beneficial to add to the situation, or it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. And now you're just going over and over and over this same thing again, when you can just go to the source and discuss it professionally and, respectfully. And instead of trying to be on the defense, just try to focus on the solution. Even if the other person is saying, well, you said this, or you did this, and you didn't handle that properly, and I've seen you do that multiple times. And then you can come back and instead of saying, well, that's not my fault. Instead of making it an argument, make it a time to find a solution. Okay, if you're wrong, then you can simply say, okay, I understand I did make a mistake. How can we resolve this? Do you have any information on that, so that next time I'm making sure I'm giving the right information? Or, I was informed of one process, it changed. Maybe I was out that day, I didn't realize that. So, can we work on, are you able to show me, or can you provide me some information, or let me go back in my notes, let me go back in my emails, let me find the way to deal with that. Now, if it's just something that has to do with personalities and someone's attitude and things like that, the best you can do is be honest and say, you know what, the way you spoke to me in front of the doctor was uncalled for. I really think that there's a better way, to speak to me, to say things to me. I would never, I would prefer if it went like this, and give an example of how, it would have been a more professional way of handling something, as opposed to saying, you know, you don't know how to talk to people, because some people, I've heard people say that, well, you don't know how to talk to people. Well, obviously they're doing something right. They're still working with you. They're communicating with people on a daily basis. So perhaps they don't see things the way others around them see it. So sometimes explaining that and trying to, bring a more, not only professional, but, respectful aspect to that, and providing options of things, that how they could have said it. Or, if it was you, say, you know what, if that was me, I would have waited until, we were in private, and you could have alerted me to what I said wrong, or what I may have done incorrectly, or, me spending too much time on one project rather than, helping the front desk. Whatever the case may be, there are always ways to resolve it, with the person directly. Now, if someone, if the person that you're working with is not interested in that, and they're being, so combative that you all cannot come to a common place, you can agree to disagree even at work. It's okay. If you all don't agree, but you can also agree to drop it, and start kind of fresh. And, was a misunderstanding. I don't want this type of environment to work in. I'm hoping that, tomorrow, I'm glad we talked about this. I understand your side of things, and I will take that into consideration. I hope you understand my side of things. Let's move on, and, have a good day. Because if when we're always on the defense, you're just allowing the space for more negativity. You're allowing the space for more things to be brought up, things that, didn't even have to do with the original conflict. Well, 3 months ago, I saw you, you know, collect the wrong deductible amount or copay, and you didn't fix it. Things like there's no reason to bring up things that are not relevant to the situation that you're dealing with right now. And, if the other person is not willing to participate in that, in a manner where you can find a solution and still go back to work the next day and feel good about what you're doing and feel good about your relationship with your coworkers, then yes, you may have to speak with HR or have management representation there during the initial conversation. Sometimes, you may have something going on where no one takes the steps to deal with it directly with, whoever, and then it blows out of proportion. And then maybe a manager will bring you and the other person into a room to have this conversation. That's okay too, because now there's someone there to support the solution. But even when you're in that situation, again, do not feel like you have to only defend yourself. Make sure you're listening. Listen to what the other person has to say. Listen to what their version or their view of the issue actually is. And instead of, finding fault, find a solution. How can we solve this? How can this never happen again? What do I need to do? Worry about you. How can I be better at what I do so I don't have to deal with this anymore? And that has to be your thought process. Because if you continue to be on the defense, if you continue to be and when I say on the defense, I'm not saying don't stand up for yourself. if you did something right and someone still had a problem with it, or some people just have that in their nature to bicker or to find ways to make other people's lives miserable. Hopefully that's not the case, but every now and again there are individuals who unfortunately work with us that do not have our best interests at heart. They only care about themselves, and they're not worried about the patients. They're not worried about the feel of the office and how they can make things better. They're not focused on that. So you have to be the one, I'm not even going to say the bigger person, just be the person that you are in a professional setting, and go about handling any conflicts, in the best possible way. Don't, and what I have here, don't add fuel to the fire, extinguish it. And that should always be the goal, to extinguish it. You don't want to deal with this issue for weeks to come. I'm pretty sure that no one else in your office wants to hear about it or deal with it for weeks to come. You have to cut it off, deal with it, find a resolution or a solution, and move on. And it's easy to move on. The best way to move on is when you stop talking about it. Even if someone else comes and says, "Oh, what happened with your conversation? Oh, I saw you went into the manager's office. What happened with that?" It was a private meeting. I appreciate you asking. Everything is fine. You don't have to share just because someone asked. It's not anyone's business. And if they weren't in the room or if they weren't involved, you don't have to share that with them, because that's just, you don't know what they're going to do with that information. And it's a better way to kind of protect yourself, protect your job, even protecting the other person that you had a conflict with, because you don't know what issues someone has with other people and what their intentions may be. And I hate to think like that all the time, but when you do think like that, you reduce the amount of additional drama or conflict or issues that you're going to bring on yourself while you're in this environment. At work, in your office, in your medical office, in your hospital, wherever you work. Now, say you have certain issues that come about with your management or your providers. Obviously, I think it's a great idea to deal with those the same way, but at the same time, you have to make sure that your ducks are in a row. Make sure that you did everything you needed to do. And if you didn't, you should be asking for assistance before they're coming to you and telling you how, that you've made this mistake. If someone already brought it to your attention or you caught it, you should say, "Look, you know what? I was done with a patient the other day. I gave them some incorrect information. Susan let me know. I was able to rectify it with the patient, but now I'm coming to you because I don't feel like I was properly trained in that area, or I don't feel like this is something that I'm equipped to provide to the patient. So can you provide me?" It's because when you go to them looking for a solution, they know that now you recognize whatever the problem was. Now, if the problem doesn't have to do with the care and the customer service that you're applying, to your patients, and it has to actually do with some personality conflict or certain concerns of that nature, then you still have to sit and have that conversation with them in the best manner that you can when you're speaking with upper level management or your physician or nurse practitioner or medical assistants, whatever you may have, whoever you may be having an issue with. If it's something where you feel you should have an HR representative there, I would always recommend you do that, even if it's for a conversation, and at the same time, if you're summoned or requested to come in on a meeting about something that has to do with the person that you're meeting with, and there's no third party there and you would feel more comfortable with that, always feel free to request that. It may or may not happen. Maybe there can just be someone, maybe you just want someone else in the room because your trust level for this person is not, you don't think it's going to be in your best interest to have the conversation alone. So that happens as well. We would hope most of the time your management is going to be very supportive of you. They're going to be looking out for your best interest. They're going to provide you the resources, any tools you need, and a reasonable solution to any conflicts. If they're wrong, we would hope that they're going to say, I was wrong in how I handled that. I was under a lot of pressure at that moment, but I apologize. Let's move on, and it's not going to happen again. It's okay for someone to apologize. It's okay for you to apologize. If it's your fault, take responsibility, apologize, and put it to bed. That's it. we don't have to go into an uproar over things that are only for that moment. Things happen in the moment, let them happen in that moment, and kind of sometimes they have to stay there. When you're working in a medical office, you're dealing with patients, you're dealing with all your clinical staff, you're dealing with people coming in and out, you're dealing with phone calls. So there's going to be a lot of time where you need to be very present, very on point, very sharp in your decision making. And sometimes, we make mistakes. And at the same time, you have the interpersonal aspect where you're working as a team with your front desk mates and your other colleagues to make sure patients are being, put into rooms, making sure that their paperwork is up to par, and there are overlapping areas to where these conflicts may happen. Maybe someone thinks you're working too slowly. Maybe someone thinks you're working too fast and you're making a lot of mistakes. Or maybe you think that of someone else. So think of ways how to resolve that. How, if you're the one who people are having an issue with, yes, take a look at what you're doing before you jump back and just automatically defend yourself. Look at what you're doing and say, okay, am I doing this to the best of my ability? Am I doing this correctly? Am I following procedure? And if all the answers to that are yes, then you can go into the conversation with this person and say, look, I'm following all the policies, procedures. I'm, interacting with the patients in a manner that is, very, excellent. And I'm providing, the best care that I can and the best service that I can. Now, if you're not, then you have to be the one to say, you know what, I understand where you're coming from. I understand where I'm falling short here. I'm going to work on that. Conversations like that help end conflicts. If you take other approaches, you may draw the conflict way out of proportion. It may last a lot longer than you wanted it to, and it's going to make you miserable. Then it becomes something that you have to think about outside of work. Then it becomes something that other people at your office have to think about and have to deal with because it's never getting resolved. Everyone in the office knows about it. There's been, talking, behind each other and things like that. And you just, in order to reduce that, sometimes we have to listen, take in what we need to take in. Sometimes we're wrong, sometimes we're not. However, it's up to you on how you respond in any conflict situation in a medical office, in any healthcare setting. It's the same as anywhere else. You have to be very open to different sorts of resolution, and you have to be open to the possibility that you are in the wrong, but you also have to be in the possibility that in the mind frame that someone else may be wrong. But so what if they're wrong? Hopefully they will also admit, apologize if it's required. It may not be something worth apologizing for. It may just be something that they need to correct and you're bringing it to their attention. But if you keep it close and keep it to the people who are actually involved or to the person who's actually involved and resolve it in that professional manner, it will be beneficial to you, beneficial to your team, beneficial to your office as a whole, because there's not that looming tension. And people are still communicating with each other regarding patient care, and they're not, trying to avoid each other. You can't work as a team when you're trying to avoid the people in your office that you don't like or that you don't get along with. That's not how a successful businesses can work. That's not how a successful team can be effective. That's not how you can provide the best patient experience. So you have to think about those things. And this is your job. This is your livelihood. This is how you pay your bills. This is how you take care of your family. And you have to, always be, I hate to keep saying being professional, but just being mature about handling these, certain situations, because we deal with things all the time in or outside of work, situations where, if we answer someone too quickly, we can say something that will make it 10 times worse than what it is. And, if someone is being rude to you, instead of always thinking about your response while they're speaking, just listen to them. Because when we start to think about our response before someone's done making their point, we're already getting ourselves upset. We're already thinking about, how am I going to defend myself? How dare this person? But we cannot allow those things to take over how we operate on a daily basis. You can't let, the negative influence the be what is going to determine how the rest of your day goes. And having that ability and being so strong to where something can happen at 12 o'clock and by 12:15 it's overdone and you're feeling just the way you did when you walked in at 8 o'clock that morning. It's a skill, but also it's a very valuable skill, because you can deal with something, move on from it, bounce back, and not let it become, a huge dark cloud that sits over your office the entire day. So that's what I have to say about conflict. Find out the root cause, discuss it, come up with a plan, drop it if it's done and over with and it was just a one-time scenario that may never come up again, or if you and the person were able to have a great discussion and kind of figure things out between yourselves. Once that's done, you drop it. Don't discuss it with others in the office that had nothing to do with it. Do not involve people who do not need to be involved. Never add fuel to the fire. Extinguish it. When you're discussing a problem or a conflict, stick to that issue. And stick to facts. Do not bring assumptions into your conflict resolution conversations. Don't bring in assumptions. Have facts. You're in a healthcare setting. Everything should be pretty much factual, because it's either going to be, there's some record of it, there were other people around, there are going to be notes and things, just depending on what this issue had to do with. There should always, stick to the facts, and don't make things up, and don't try to make yourself look better and make the other person look like a horrible person. Just deal with the issue at hand. And if it's your fault, you accept responsibility and you move on. And that's it. And I think those are practical tools for us to have in life and in our work settings. And I think sometimes, if you have to take a deep breath, wait 10 seconds before you respond to someone, that will also help reduce the amount of conflicts you have, because you're going to have a little bit of a clearer head. You're going to take a little bit of time and think about how you're responding to the situation, as opposed to just reacting out of your emotion at that very moment. So always give yourself time, give yourself the benefit of the doubt. Know that you're there to perform a job. You have the skills and ability, or you would not be there. And always have that confidence in yourself to know that I can deal with this. Don't allow other people to break you down. You can stand up for yourself without being defensive, and you can prove points without being aggressive towards other people. So always keep that in mind. Again, thank you for listening to the Medical Receptionist Network podcast. This is episode 5. I'm Shivhon Adkins. Please reach out to me at info@medicalreceptionistnetwork.com. If you did not grab your handbook, you can also find that at medicalreceptionistnetwork.com or on amazon.com. Thank you again. Have a wonderful week.